as marketers, we're often asked, a lot of complicated questions about new forms of content and systems and platforms that are out there. And I don't think it's worth discrediting TikTok just because it's purely seen as a Gen Z platform. It's really not really just that these days. The audience is growing more and more each year.
Yeah, well, interesting enough, like under 19s is what it's normally known for, but that's only 25% of the users.
Welcome to Under the Hood.
So welcome back. We are yet again in the studios of the wonderful bowels of Bella Vista.
The bowels?
Well, it kind of feels like we're in the dungeons or sort of hidden away in the hub or something. And they've changed it around for us as well, which is kind of nice of them. We sort of come in not expecting to have anything change, and they've shuffled us around. I'm on the other side to where I normally am. Gabe's over there where I was before, and it's sort of feeling a little bit official.
It is a bit official. Like I was saying, it's kind of like a bit like a world leaders summit where we're declaring some new initiative for the world to take on climate action or something.
And I think if you're listening on the podcast, you're probably wondering what the hell we're talking about. But just to describe it, it's kind of like a half hexagonal desk with all of the podcast chairs sitting around, rather than us sitting opposite in the traditional podcast format. We're kind of in this half hexagonal format.
Hexagonal. I never really hear that term used very often. But yes.
Anyway, enough of that.
We're back. We're back after a little hiatus. A few moments between drinks, and hence why I think there's been such a furniture rearrangement here at the lovely Bella Vista Hotel. Thanks again for having us, guys. And if you haven't tuned into the Under the Hood podcast before, welcome back. I'm Gabe, and this is Tony, and we're here to talk for 10 minutes only. And yes, Tony has a timer there.
In a minute, I will put the timer on.
Yep, and that means that we're going to stick to that time limit and not go on a tangent like we did just before we started talking about the topic. But we have to keep to the topic, and if you haven't done so already, make sure to like and subscribe to this show, because we release...
It's easy for you to say.
We release a new episode every fortnight. So, and they've been going really well. There's some good responses for our previous episode, hasn't there, Tony? So,
yes, yeah. We got a few in the bank, so we're kind of ahead of ourselves. So we kind of know what's coming, but you don't. But if you subscribe, you won't miss a bit.
You won't miss a beat
of the Under the Hood. So
yes.
Please subscribe. Share it with your friends, your family, your Auntie Noreen and Uncle
Especially
Jack.
Noreen. Yes, Noreen's she's a good soul, and she loves the TOOLKIT section as well. So make sure you stay tuned.
She told me that.
Yes, she did. And make sure you stay tuned for the end so you get the toolkit section and get some handy takeaway tips and tools and tricks for your toolkit. Cool. But Tony, with that said, would you like to introduce the controversial topic for today's episode?
And it is as well, because this is an interesting one for me. I don't know who comes up with this topic. But anyway, this is how TikTok is replacing Google. Let's start the timer.
Oh, now I remember what this topic's about.
So maybe you can kick us off, seeing as you came up with this lovely topic.
Sure, I can. Now, look, I think it's worth addressing first the history and possibly the stigma that is surrounding TikTok. I think still to this day, even though it's been around for some time now, it's about 4 or 5 years it's been around substantially.
Yep.
The history is, as we all know, there was a platform called Vine back in 2013, ran for a few years, didn't make any money. Twitter bought it, didn't go anywhere, and it died, basically. But now the resurgence of short video content, aside from Vine, which was 6 seconds, we're now looking at 60 plus seconds now for TikTok videos. Yep. And I think it's worth addressing the stigma behind them, because look, as marketers, we're often asked, a lot of complicated questions about new forms of content and systems and platforms that are out there. And I don't think it's worth discrediting TikTok just because it's purely seen as a Gen Z platform. It's really not really just that these days. The audience is growing more and more each year.
Yeah, well, interesting enough, like under 19s is what it's normally known for, but that's only 25% of the users that I found out here. 20 to 29-year-olds are another 22%. 30 to 39 are 21%, and even 40 to 49 are 20%. So it is, as you're saying, quite varied. The audience isn't just that younger market. It's grown across even people like me have TikTok.
Exactly. And albeit like I myself as a millennial don't use it so much, but I am, very accustomed with how it works, and as I should be. The 18 to 24 demographic is still by far the primary audience. However, now a lot of stigma still surrounding it is that TikTok is really just made for places where people have opinions, and they are illegitimate sources basically of information, which I think if you remember the Netflix documentary a few years ago about the social dilemma, there's some correlation between that. However, it's not so much that these days with the restructuring of online content by the government. Speaking of the government.
Are we allowed to? Which government?
It depends which one.
Chinese government?
Well, no, we can't talk about them. But the Australian government having banned the use of TikTok on government platforms or devices.
But they're the fun police, aren't they?
Come on,
that's really what that's about.
Yeah, but we won't talk into that. We're not really going to go into that today. No. And then the other stigma point is like, really, TikTok for my business? Oh, come on. But you know what? It's actually something that is a viable option now for businesses. And we're going to explain to you why and how as well, to the topic, it's taking over Google of all things, the super giant that is Google that gets billions of views every year. Yeah. I mean, explain a little bit to that, Tony, because we were talking about it before about how TikTok really now is that discovery point for a lot of people of all age demographics to then further their journey to Google. But TikTok has really taken the primary first touch searches.
I think so. And like I was sharing with you before, interestingly enough, because I've been on TikTok for, probably since it started or soon afterwards, just from an observer perspective.
Of course. He wasn't dancing or doing the floss.
Under my pseudonym I was, but not under my normal profile.
Oh, you're T-Dizzle94. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Oh, sorry.
But what I found is that, especially in the last 12 months, news appears on TikTok quicker than it does on anywhere else. So I think recently, at the end of last year, there was a plane crash in, I think it was Brazil or somewhere, and videos of the plane coming in and bystanders' videos actually came out on TikTok while I was just scrolling through everything before it even hit the news.
Yeah, and that's incredible.
It's happened a few times.
That's incredible.
So I think trending news is quicker. Like sometimes it used to be Twitter. Remember, Twitter was kind of that, but I think Twitter's gone through a few changes and everything now with Elon taking over and everything. So, I think news and trends are so quick and fast on TikTok for me.
It's very true. And as you were saying, it translates to other mediums. Like you'll see TikToks on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere these days. And I love what some people were talking about it, how it's more like a transmedia way of storytelling these days. Like look at Banksy, for example. I think you've got a few Banksies behind you by the looks of it, Tony, on the wall there. But Banksy as an artist places his art all over the place and tells a story, right? And you kind of have to see every one of them to kind of tell the story, or, even sometimes it's not a straight linear story as Banksy would give. But like, the art side, set aside, not all TikTok is art, obviously, but the actual intention of telling stories through this medium, through bits and pieces, is a really clever way of keeping people's attention, entertaining, as well as just giving a whole new way of marketing. It's quite fascinating. And I think a lot more people should latch onto it. And speaking of which, it might be good to talk to a few stats that encompass TikTok.
There's always good stats, I think. Certainly there's a couple here that I saw. Australia spent 23.4 hours per month, they say, on TikTok, an increase of 40% from 2021. So as a growing social media platform, it's certainly one that we should be looking at, because a lot of people are looking at this.
That's so true. And it's got over 1 billion monthly active users, which is huge. And in particular, it spans over 150 countries in like 75 different languages. I mean, that's crazy. Like you can place this business as if you're from Australia promoting to China or maybe somewhere else less controversial.
I thought we weren't mentioning China.
Don't mention the China.
I mentioned it once, but we got away with it. That's so true. And I think the interesting thing with that is, because we're going to talk about content as well, because that's one of the things that I've kind of struggled with. If any of you have looked at TikTok, the range of content, the range of video content, you mentioned stories. I think that's where it all comes down to. But if you're a brand, it's kind of like sometimes a struggle to think about the story. But certainly when you're thinking about the content, think about a global audience, right? Because as you said, anybody could be watching it. And if it's, well done, it can actually translate into many different countries, with a music backing or some kind of
Absolutely.
editable
and
thing.
I think people are appreciating that over Google, coming back to that point, because, Google is and always has been a search engine for, search terms that you read. But now with TikTok, there's a visual medium, a visual aspect to it.
Yep.
And I think Google is also trying to maintain that dominance for the discovery phase by introducing what we talked about in one of our previous episodes. I think it was the last episode. We talked about Google Web Stories now that they've introduced, where you create your content like a TikTok and place it on your website, and Google favors the search and brings up your video based upon, searching for that content. So now they're trying to combat it. So I think this is, quite empirical evidence that Google is trying to keep up with TikTok. The other point to make, Tony, is that the video app TikTok now has been reported by Cloudflare to have overtaken Google in terms of search volume at the discovery phase. So that's actual hard empirical
So more
evidence.
video. You're saying video search is higher on TikTok than it is through
100%,
Google.
even
and
though
Google own YouTube, right?
Exactly.
Because they bought YouTube for
You took
the
the
video
words out of my
content.
mouth. Exactly. That's the whole point. And isn't that fascinating
It
now?
is fascinating.
And
I think as well, going back to the news story that I was saying that I follow, as we're doing this episode today, the trending thing at the moment is old Trump and his court hearing. And it's amazing how as soon as that happens, there's lots of stories that come out and TikToks that come out. And one of them is by Jason Scoop, who's a comedian in America, dressed up as Trump at the front of the court hearing. Already had 180,000 likes. I mean, these numbers are huge, and 28,000 shares on a piece of content that he put up today. As part of the Trump thing.
And isn't that fascinating? You compare that to something like Saturday Night Live, where Alec Baldwin will do an impersonation and won't get a fraction of the views. Even though it's quite an impressive, and well-known established show, like TikTok, for some reason, gets more views than traditional, like large-scale television, even when it's put on YouTube. So
It's crazy. And if you go to the other end of the scale, what not to do, because again, I saw some people that are trialing this, and a roofing company, I won't mention the name, just put up a static ad that was just an ad. It just said roofing, blah, 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 0 likes, 0 shares. So that sort of stuff doesn't, if you're going to blatantly advertise, you've got to make it a bit of fun. I think this is the opportunity for a brand to think about the experience, to think about your audience, and to think about how you can engage. Because if it's not engaging, if it's just pure advertising, it's just not going to work.
And also bringing on that same point, the authenticity that brings, the transparency of a brand, where it really can bring out the personality of the people behind the company. It can definitely, if it's suitable for your particular brand and your business, then great. Why not have that sort of visual representation rather than, like, to your point with that crappy ad example, instead of that traditional way of doing it, why not make it more engaging, more fun? And I guess that brings me to the question about what does this mean for brands in general. I think we should talk to that in business, and then how brands can better adapt their behavior and take advantage of TikTok. So what should we be doing? What's some really good points and tips we should be throwing brands their way, Tony?
So I think one of the things I read before, which I think really works well, if you think about a very simple format called ads, ADS, that I've seen before. A is for attention. Because I think one of the things with TikTok, and I find it, and if you're a user, you know this, you just scroll. You're just scrolling. So if there's no attention, so think about something, how am I going to get attention? How am I going to stop the scroll? The second thing, D, is demonstrate. So demonstrate something, show something, and re-demonstrate it again. And then finally, S is sell. Like, if you want to sell someone, then do that at the very end. Once you've engaged, once you've demonstrated a product or a service in a fun sort of engaging way, then the next thing is, how do you sell? What's the next step if you want them to do something? It could be to comment.
Oh, no.
Oh, goodness me. That's the timer already, and we've only just started. I'll set it again, shall I? Let's go for another 10 minutes. Ready? You're all in? Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. No.
Well, let's add a couple more minutes, because we didn't even get to, the length, for example. I wanted to cover off the fact that, a lot of people are getting, some of these TikToks now at 6 minutes long because they're telling a really engaging story. So it doesn't have to be short, 30-second like it was when they started. It's actually extended a little bit in terms of time.
And it's broken up into chunks and whatnot. And I think it's also relevancy of the time when they release it. So if you're a brand wanting to release something that's relevant and always on your game, like TikTok's the perfect platform for that because it's always about the most relevant content. And it's important to note that when people are on TikTok, they're getting fed information specifically to them, to their searches. So it's very catered to what they're looking for and, you know, what they've been reading about and looking previously. So you have a much better chance than Google of getting someone who's a more exact match for your brand, your product, or your service.
Yep.
And I think it's important to think and act as the customer, not the brand. That's a really
think about the
big
customer,
point.
100%. And we talk about this all the time for a lot of different reasons. Like, think about the context of the customer, but especially on something like TikTok, because you've got to put yourself in the shoes, which is why I got TikTok a few years ago, not because I wanted to participate and put content up there, but I wanted to see how people were using it and how people were engaging it. And it's so easy. I think one of the things just to share, if you want to get started, you can actually go to tiktok.com/business to set up your account. And then actually, this was really cool. I like this. It's tiktok.com/business/inspiration. And you can actually search by industry and actually see what others have done and the results that they got. So get some inspiration first on what other brands are doing before you dive in.
Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree. So I think the 5 key points I would give on top of that to really focus in on what Tony's saying is understand your brand, understand your audience first and foremost. If TikTok is the most valid place for you, understand your audience in particular. You know, if there are influencers of your personas who exist on TikTok, say, you know, a child of a parent who's looking some way to look after their parent for some reason, TikTok's a great platform for that. Don't think about just your persona, think about the influencers. Also create engaging content, as we talked about before, what's trending, what's newsworthy, etc., but making sure it's relevant to your brand. Showcase your products or services in an interesting way and use other people on the platform as well. Micro influencers are a great source. You know, they're inexpensive and they usually have a smaller audience, but a much more engaged and, you know, passionate audience. So the 4th point I'll make is engage with your audience constantly on TikTok because it's made for engaging. It's a social platform, like liking, sharing, commenting back to people. Super important. Okay. So, you know, it's probably best to grab someone from internally to manage it and always be on the ball to respond if you can. Preferably a Gen Z person, and measures your success. And platforms like HubSpot, you know, can actually bring in TikTok relevant information and data and produce reporting from it too. So it's already built to do it. And HubSpot got on the game pretty early for TikTok. So connect it to those platforms that you use for measuring data and printing out reports, and, you know, make sure you keep on top of it.
And I think with anything new, like we talked about AI in a previous episode, is getting there and try it. Like, you know, look at some of those examples that I mentioned before in the case studies and just give it a try, and you'll see if people are engaging or not engaging. But I think there's some elements about quality as well in terms of the production, without going too far. And
true.
I'm previewing my toolkit because I've got a couple of things that may help you with your TikTok videos.
Well, with that said, Tony, what a great segue into our favorite segment
called
The Toolkit.
Toolkit time. What have you got? What have you been rummaging around with your toolkit this week? Everybody's sort of sitting, especially Auntie Noreen, on the side of her seat, waiting to see what you're going to whip out of that toolkit.
I don't know if Auntie Noreen wants to see what I'm going to whip out. Well, look, I'm going to talk to just one, and then I'll throw it to you for your one, and then I'll throw back to mine, because then the last one I've got really ties into our next topic, which I'm excited to unveil. But let's talk about today's topic, toolkit. The first one I want to talk to is flowpaper.com. Have you ever heard of Flowpaper?
Flowpaper.com, no. And I'm not even going to guess what it does. Has it got anything to do with paper?
Possibly. You can throw those out, Tony. Burn them. Every time Tony brings
paper,
paper
move with the times.
Yeah,
no, you've done it this week as well.
Yeah, shut up. I only did it because I wanted to fit in with you. But look, flowpaper.com is a really cool tool in terms of what it does. It takes your PDF that you might have developed for like a brochure or a catalog or something like that. It's usually the best use case. Pop it onto its platform. It'll actually then put it into a realistic flip book for you online. So an actual digital
flip book. So you can flip through the pages.
Yeah, similar to a few ones we've done for our clients previously. And then you can put into the flip book like little call to actions that they can click on and go through. So it makes it a more interactive kind of PDF as opposed to the flat, document style that you're very used to.
Nobody ever reads. How many PDFs do you download and then you never look at them because they're just a static piece of file?
Yeah, true. So it's going to help with
Yeah,
that whole
good.
user experience. I really like that. It's and it's inexpensive. It does have a price to it, but I highly recommend. So flowpaper.com, check it out.
Cool. All right, from my toolkit this week, I've gone AI again, seeing as everybody is diving into this. It's called SoundDraw.io. SoundDraw. What do you think that is?
Is that like you make a sound like meh, and then it writes it down for you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know why the draw's there, to be honest with you. But basically, it's a royalty-free music generator, right? So, like I was saying before, with your TikTok videos, you want to put some nice music. You can go and search for music, and you can find out. And there's always copyright and all this kind of stuff. This time, you select the length that you want. So you can go 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, so whatever you want. You choose the tempo. You want it slow, fast, normal. You can even select the mood and the instruments. And then within seconds, it will actually create for you 15 different versions of a unique music track.
Wow.
So I think that's awesome.
If I select one that I just want pure tambourine and nothing else,
if
will it
that's
give me...
Yeah, you can have that. Whether people will listen to it or not, isn't it? But that one's called SoundDraw.ai. Give it a go. It's a great thing to play and just adds that element to your videos. Instead of just having cold sound or just speaking, you can add a bit to it.
Yeah, that's great. I like that one. Nice tip there. Nice toolkit unveil there, Tony. And look, my final one, which leads into our next topic, is around the lovely platform HubSpot, as we're all very
that one
familiar with. HubSpot LMS, which I've talked about on my own LinkedIn before, but I never really brought it up on this show, and I think it's really worth bringing up because a lot of people don't know about it. It's a once-off cost platform you pay for. The general version is about $1,000, but it's a once-off cost as opposed to a monthly cost that HubSpot has.
Yep.
You purchase it, and then you can connect it immediately to your HubSpot portal, your pre-existing portal, and then you can start playing with it like you would at landing pages or blogs, and you can actually create an inbuilt LMS within HubSpot, which is really cool. We developed one for a client recently at Salted Stone, and we're going to put up a case study shortly of it. But essentially, it's a really cool tool where it's so editable and so easy. You could add in video, you can add in quizzes, you can add in logins to log in to go into your course and do the next course and next course. So you could build out for courses or just information centers. You can have downloadables off it as well.
Yep.
So there's a ton you can do with it, and it's super flexible and easy to use. And then the best thing is it's connected into HubSpot. So connected,
it's a standalone. It's not part of the Marketing Hub or anything like that. It's a standalone.
It's basically an add-on to your Marketing Hub, but it is a standalone platform.
Okay.
So the best way to describe it is if you go into your Marketing Hub, go to landing pages, and there's a drop-down, and you'll be able to select the LMS tool, and then you can use it within that section of your Marketing Hub. So you do have to have Marketing Professional at least.
Yep.
But it's really cool as a tool, and I highly recommend it because then you can add on workflows and automations off it based upon if people complete one lesson versus another in their LMS, or they download something. You can then, go back to them, hey, you downloaded this. Did you get a lot out of this course? I can see you completed, 50 minutes of it, something like that.
That's awesome. I think we should actually do an episode at one stage because I think learning online has become such a huge thing now. As we come out of COVID and the hybrid sort of area that we were in, that people are like the convenience of getting online and learning stuff, and then backed by HubSpot, which can just help you go back and keep on learning. I think that's pretty cool.
True. And now speaking of HubSpot, it's our next topic.
Oh, hang on. I've still got one more here.
You still got one?
Yeah, well, we're two each. Eh?
Oh, all right,
just before you, just hold your breath on that one because your last one was good, but this one's even better. So Otter.ai. Any ideas?
I'm really hoping it's like an AI-generated otter that you can speak to.
Well, not really. It's kind of an AI meeting assistant that works with you. So when, we're still on Zoom, we still use Zoom a lot for our meetings and stuff. But anyway, this takes it to the next level. So you know how on Zoom you can just record the meeting and you can do a transcript? This goes one step further, records the audio, writes the notes for you, automatically captures slides. So when someone's presenting slides, it will capture the slides within the text of the reporting. So your slide comes up for context about what they're saying. Okay. It can generate summaries. And at the end of it, it automatically captures and inserts all of those meeting notes together and sends it to you. Right?
Oh, wow.
There we are. We
Is our timer again for some reason?
Well, we went for another 10 minutes, but that included the toolkit, so I think we're allowed a little bit of
I think we're
flexibility.
allowed. Okay.
So, sorry to cut you off because I know you were super excited to announce the next episode.
It's okay.
Talking of HubSpot.
It wasn't that important, but it's fine.
Come
on. Our next topic is going to be the top 10 reasons why HubSpot is better than Salesforce.
Oh, we're going to go right down. The big question everybody's always thinking about, Salesforce versus HubSpot. Well, we're going to let it out. We're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and why.
We're just going to rip it to shreds.
Yeah, so if you're on Salesforce, tune in. If you work for Salesforce, don't tune in.
No. We're going to burn that bridge, I tell you right now. Yes, but look, thank you everyone for joining in on another episode of Under the Hood. Thank you, Tony Eads, and thank you to the Bella Vista Hotel. If you
don't
haven't
change
already,
it around again, please.
Oh.
We just got used to this one now.
Well, it keeps us on our toes, doesn't it? But thank you again for having us.
you.
And look, if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, make sure to share this all around. Let us know your feedback in the comments below if you want us to talk more to this topic or others. And we'll join you in the next episode of Under the Hood. Bye for now.
See ya.